Hello, it's Steve White, TrekBoy89 for SteveArts89, Star Trek's Gatekeeper. Well, today I'm looking at Star Trek uniforms, Starfleet uniforms, which is why I'm wearing one of my own. I have about 12. This is the Star Trek Beyond uniform. One of them, it's not an official one because at the time I don't think there were any, and I ended up getting the official ones as well, so I've got a whole bunch of different versions because I just wanted to pick what I liked best and what I felt looked most like what we saw in the film, not necessarily what it was like in person, which is one of the issues with costumes. Now, we've just had a bit of a reveal with the Star Trek Strange New Worlds costumes. Now, we saw them in the previews and we had a little bit of a look, but on the Star Trek cruise this weekend, they actually had 4 uniforms. The Pike uniform, the number 1 uniform, which was the female uniform, the Uhura uniform, which was the female uniform in red, of course, and because those two were gold, and the Spock uniform, which is a male uniform in blue. So we sort of got a bit of a look. I mean, it would have been nice if they had all 6, one of each, but we got a bit of a look, and we got a close-up look, and we saw some detail we didn't see in the previews or noticed in the previews. They actually have the command insignia, the department insignia embroidered on the arm all the way down in a section. And they're just very nice. They're very well done. They're very well structured. But there's a little issue. In Beyond, we saw in the underarm there was a darker panel which gave the uniforms a slimming effect and gave them more shape. And I thought it worked very well because it gave them a bit of extra detail without changing the design. And in the first 2 films, they just had the Delta insignia printed all over it, and it gave it a density and a texture, but not really a structure. So I was happy to see that in Beyond. But something happened with Axanar. They originally were using the cage uniforms, but then that apparently became an issue, allegedly, supposedly. I don't know, I wasn't there, I'm just guessing. And they designed their own variations of the uniform, supposedly, I'm guessing, allegedly, so that they weren't encroaching on any specific designs from Paramount. And what they did was they put a black panel underneath the arm, and they replaced the black collar with a wider neck and a tight black undershirt, much like the JJ films had in the first 2 films. Now, I didn't really like how open the collars were, and I thought the black was too harsh. I really preferred the Beyond designs, which just had a darker shade, which gave, some texture to it, I guess, with the different shades, but didn't really change it, and it wasn't that strong contrast. But they've gone and used that on the Strange New Worlds costumes. They've got the black panels up the side, and the women have the same black leggings and boots that the female crew members on the Axanar ship have. The main difference is the collar, female collars, they come up higher, and they have a split where I think they have a zip, or maybe they're just a split, and they have an undershirt, a black undershirt, but you don't see it as much. And they're a little tricky. Like, this one is actually built into this, and it's hard to get to sit right. The movie ones, the first 2 movie ones I've got, have a separate undershirt, which is much tighter around the neck. It's a bit too tight, but it does fit the same way as it does in the films. And yeah, that's the main difference. Pretty much they're the same. And this is making a lot of people speculate, like myself. This is just my opinion. I don't have any facts or information about the design or the timeline of the design of any of these uniforms. But it does look like the same design from Axanar that Strange New Worlds is using. And this is not the first time fans have suggested that the New Trek productions have taken from the fan films. And that's a whole nother video I've already done a couple of videos on. But I just thought it could have been avoided. They own the Beyond designs as far as I know. Oh, actually, no. Well, Paramount owned them through Bad Robot. Now Paramount is partnering with CBS. No one really knows who owns what anymore. Bad Robot and Secret Hideout don't own any of the designs. They're just licensing the designs from CBS and Paramount, who are now one company. But that didn't necessarily join everyone's rights, and they're all still separate rights owned by different people within different companies within the same company. It's just a huge legal nightmare. So I don't know why, but you would think they would have just been able to use something closer to the Beyond designs, which the uniforms in the second season that Pike had were much more like, because originally Discovery had blue uniforms with a really awkward collar, and gold and silver and bronze piping and paneling and deltas to sort of show the rank. And the explanation later was that these were just science uniforms. Science ships had these uniforms, and the other ships had the regular red, yellow or gold and blue uniforms. So we eventually saw them on Pike's ship, and they were just the same uniforms as the blue ones, just different colours, and the collars were black instead of coloured. I thought the collars were a bit awkward, and I was hoping they'd make them into a more conventional collar, and then they went and reduced the collar to nothing and put the undershirt. But sometimes the undershirts don't sit up high enough. So, like in the case of Spock, when I first saw him, went from having his this big sort of collar to just this open neck, and it was quite a contrast. And I thought they really need to have the undershirts having higher collars, so you actually see the black undershirt underneath. But so that was my issue with them, and my issue with the Axanar ones was the collars were too big, and the collars of the undershirts were too prominent. So it would have been nice if they could have found a nice in-between that incorporated all the elements of these designs. But yeah, I thought it was just very problematic to make these designs so close to the Axanar designs, because the understanding that I have and other people have is that even if you own the IP and people base something on the IP, it doesn't mean you own their designs. And people are arguing now that they own the IP, so they own the designs, they can use whatever they want, that any person in a fan film makes. And this has happened with, I believe, supposedly, allegedly, Disney and a few other companies, where they have taken, allegedly, supposedly, a design that a fan has made and then sold it because it was based on their IP, but it wasn't their design. And some people are trying to have this dealt with legally, but it's very difficult for fans and people who don't have a whole studio behind them and a legal team to defend these sort of things, and often you just have to let them go. So I'm not sure if this is going anywhere, but I just found it really curious. I saw the design and I had the same reaction to the Axanar uniforms. I thought the black is too strong, it's too contrasting. They should have just gone for darker shade of the colour that they already have in the uniform, like beyond. So I didn't even think it worked as well as what the other uniforms, what they could have done. But then to have it also be so similar to another designed by someone else. Now, these designs were done by, of course, Gersha Phillips and Bernadette Cross. And the Beyond design was by, I think, Christian Cortella, who is a different designer from the one who did the designs in the first film, but we're not discussing them because they have no real similarity, except the undershirt, actually. So I probably should have brought that person's name into it, but I've forgotten their name anyway. So yeah, I would have avoided that if I was Gersha or Bernadette. I doubt anyone's going to sue anyone, but it's just not a good look to have something already established in a fan film and then you have the same look. Whether you came up with the same idea at the same time and were just in a bubble and didn't know and just went for it because you had the artistic integrity of, I did that without knowing or copying, so it's okay. Or whether you were told you can take whatever you want from anywhere, including the fan films, because we own the IP, and they did that. Or I don't know how these, I'm just speculating. I don't know how these came about, but I just find it really curious, and I just think it's really problematic to do that. And I don't think they're the best choice. I really think the darker panel would have been better, and the higher collar. I just don't understand why they can't take the best elements from all the uniforms and make the best uniform. But they seem to have to design the uniform every time they do a season of a show. So it just becomes difficult because you have to leave behind better designs because they have to do something different this time. And that's problematic as well. Because at the end of the day, Bad Robot and Secret Hideout do not own the rights to Star Trek. They licensed them from CBS and Paramount. Paramount, I believe, owns the JJ verse, and CBS owns everything else. And even though they're the same company now, they've all merged. That didn't automatically merge the rights and the contracts and all those things that already existed. So I'm not sure what happens long term, and I don't know why they couldn't just, like I said, take the best elements from all the uniforms that they should really own and stay away from, say, ones designed by people for the fan films. But yeah, I really don't know because I'm not there making the decisions, but I'm certainly seeing the results, and I personally believe they're a bit questionable and not the best choice. So they could have avoided that issue and had a better design, in my opinion. But I just want to talk about it. I thought it was interesting, and I'm curious. And I mean, they do look good, but I just think the black is too strong. It's too contrasting. It blends in with the pants, so it sort of has that element of extending sort of that into it, the colour into it and that, and it does make the front part of the uniform look more like a panel, which is what eventually they did in the motion picture uniforms, where they originally were going to have the front panel was the colour section and the rest of the uniform was grey. And they still went with the Admiral uniforms having a white panel. So it's all interesting, but I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Sorry for my voice. I'm going to go take my uniform off. I don't ever get a chance to wear my uniforms anymore. I bought a bunch of them trying to get the perfect one for a costume ball that I didn't end up attending. And I've just got like 12 or 15 costumes I've never really worn. So at least I got to wear it for this. But I'm going to go. Yeah, let me know what you think of the costumes, new design, and issues of copyright and IP. Bye.